Hey guys, and welcome to our review of the first Five Nights at Freddy's, or just Five Nights at Freddy's. So if you haven't seen these reviews before, we do these in sections or chapters. So you can use the chapter feature in YouTube if you want to skip a certain section, or you want to skip right to the final rating, or the is it worth the part. You're able to do that. So without further ado, let's get right started. So let's start with the game company / creator. The creator, there's no company tied to it at this point, was Scott Cawthon. Of course, everyone knows him. Obviously, kind of pioneered the sort of idea of Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, there's so many spin-off games now. There's like renditions of it, all that sort of stuff, and obviously like helped create the original FNAF franchise as well. So yeah, he's a pretty cool dude, and he also donates to charity quite often. So pretty good game creator as well. And he's made like other games other than FNAF, and those games have been were pretty good as well. Like a lot of like FNAF World wasn't well received for some reason, but I thought it was pretty good. He made like Freddy in Space or whatever, like not the one in FNAF World, but the other one, the charity one. That was pretty cool. So he's a really good game creator. So yeah. But moving on to what is done well. So for the first game, was kind of like the mainstay for the whole door mechanic. Like you have 2 doors or 3 doors, whatever it is that other creators are doing now. But like that's kind of the mainstay for it. So when you're introduced to the doors, you're kind of just told that only do it if absolutely necessary. And as a first-time player, you're like, well, what the is that supposed to mean? And so you start seeing that the characters are walking around, and you're like, oh crap, that's what they mean. And so it really sets this fear in you, like, oh no, what happens if they get too close, type of thing. And obviously, we all know you die. Yeah, so I think the mechanics are well introduced. I think the phone guy is pretty interesting. His line is super memorable at this point. So that's how you know it's a good game. But yeah, I think that's done well. The ambience of FNAF is done well. Like the ambience is used in not just FNAF anymore; it's used in a lot of other projects. So that's how good that is. We're gonna get more into like the sound effects later, but the sound effects are really well done. A lot of things are well done, and there's a custom night. There's like a custom mode that you can do later, and of course there's the Golden Freddy Easter egg and stuff like that. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the original, and that's what makes the game special, because you might get a playthrough where you have a special event happen, or you have a special poster that's on the wall that's not normally there. So you have a lot of special events that might happen. So that's pretty well done as well. But moving on to what could be improved. Foxy as a character was fine initially, but once you get to the 20 mode, he's kind of broken. Because there's a way, like the way you did 20 mode, which actually you're probably watching on the screen right now, is you kind of just ignore him, which seems strange. I mean, I guess that's kind of how it has to work, because if you had to look at him, it'd be sort of impossible to tackle Freddy and Foxy at the same time. But like once you get to 420 mode, you just ignore him, and that's it. So I don't know what I think, because his mechanic is what we all thought was you had to look at his camera, which I think even the phone guy says to do that. But it's not that you have to look at his camera; it's just that you have to look at a camera to slow his progress, which I find very strange. And Freddy was also interesting because in the 420 mode, as long as you're on his camera, he can't move, which I don't know how that makes sense, because in the other cameras where he moves, that doesn't apply. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that was like an intended mechanic or a broken mechanic. I'm not totally sure. If it was intended, I'm not sure why that's the case then, because Bonnie doesn't listen to that. If you're looking at Bonnie on the camera, I mean, I guess he doesn't. He goes to the camera and then to the door, so I guess it doesn't really apply either. But either way, the whole Freddy mechanic's a little strange. And like I said, Foxy just kind of broken on 420. Like you can just fully ignore him, and he never really comes at you. Or supposedly, if you're doing it right. And I don't recall there being much music in the game. Like I said, there's a section later for music and sound, but I think there was really just the title screen, and I guess if you want to count it, the "You Wins" sound.
Yeah, the chimes.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'd count that though, because that's more of a sound effect. Sound effects are like 10 seconds or less. Songs are like actual like minutes. So I'm probably not gonna count that. So there's that, and then I think there's I think after the 5th night, right, you get a slip or whatever. Is that 2? I forget which one that is.
After night 5, you get a paycheck.
Yeah, I think there's a music track in there. Maybe, I'm not totally sure.
It's basically just the Freddy's music box thing. That's about it.
Oh yeah, right. So
and there's also that weird like thing that plays in the background, like that weird like wind chime thing or whatever it is.
But either way, there's not much music, and I think that's. I mean, he obviously added more music later, like a lot more music later. But for the original, like it was the music was kind of lacking, so I'd say that could have been improved too. Moving on to any problems or glitches. When the game first came out, there were glitches. There were a lot, actually. But in terms of talking nowadays, again, I don't know if the Freddy mechanic is supposed to be there. I mean, he would have fixed it if it wasn't supposed to be there. Or maybe he was just like, I guess, or maybe he fixed it, realized 420 would now be impossible, and just didn't actually fix it entirely. So I don't know, that could be still one. And then the Foxy one, Foxy's normal usually, but on 420 you can just completely ignore him, so I don't know if that's about either. But in terms of that, there's not really much. I think there was a glitch on PC where I flipped up the camera and it kind of froze the screen for a couple seconds. So that was like the only glitch I really encountered. It wasn't like a game-breaking glitch because it was like 2 seconds where it was frozen, and I think the game actually froze itself. So like it's not like the animatronics were trying to murder me during that 2 seconds, but still. But other than that, I don't think there were a lot when it came out. But obviously it's in the updated version now, so you're not going to be playing that version. So in terms of modern day version, I can't honestly think of anything else other than the things I mentioned. So we're gonna move on to controls. Now the controls of this game, if you're on PC, it's literally just click. It's literally just a mouse. Because on the computer you can use your mouse to hover over things like the camera and like the doors and stuff, and you just click to activate them. The camera actually don't even need to click. You just go towards it and it brings it up for you. So it's literally just a point-and-click game, basically. But if you're on a console, because it is on console now, then it's a variety of different buttons. You have so many different buttons. You have, like, I think it's the buttons on Nintendo Switch were strange. It was like L to bring up the camera. You had to use the L stick to move. You had to use B to shut the door.
The door. A was the light, which I think it should have been the other way around.
Yeah, I think it should be the other way around. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. And you couldn't map them. You couldn't like map the buttons to specific things.
It's set in stone.
So yeah, that I guess should have been improved too. But I'm not thinking about console version just because I think you're not doing the game justice by playing it on console. I think PC is kind of the way to go. It's more Security Breach is more of a console FNAF title.
Oh yeah. And plus, with playing it on console, you don't get that experience of like being able to move your mouse to the specific camera you want. If you're on console, you have to use your joystick to go to just like move the cameras to like all in a circle just to go to where you want the camera to go instead of just instantly.
Yeah, which provided many problems during the actual game, and also 420 mode. I honestly believe that's impossible on Switch, just based on how redonkulous the mechanics are in that, because you have to use you move the cameras with the same button you look around in. So basically, anytime I would be too fast and like get out of the camera, or like try to switch to a different camera and look around, or vice versa, Freddy would just come and kill me, because as soon as you, in 420 mode, as soon as you leave Freddy's camera, he kills you immediately, even if you have the door shut. So basically, that when we did initially the Conquering Time 420 mode on Switch, we failed horrendously because there was I think we couldn't get past 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.
Yeah, it was bad.
And then on PC, we did it in like 3 tries because, well, first of all, I did practice a little bit, but also just because it's way easier. So yeah, console, I wouldn't recommend on console, personally speaking, but it is there if you want it, or if you don't have access to a computer, I guess that's also that as well. Yeah, the controls on PC, perfect. Controls on console are not. So that's why I would recommend doing it on console, or on PC, sorry. But moving on to graphics. Now the graphics were actually pretty stellar. They weren't like super high def, and they wouldn't crash your computer the second you opened it, so that's good. And it's a very spooky game. The graphic that Scott did a really nice job designing the animatronics. Obviously, later installments, I think he did better. Obviously, because the FNAF was his first entry into the horror genre. I'm pretty sure. But either way, like, he modeled them pretty well. They were actually pretty scary. According to him, Bonnie was the scariest. I think Foxy's probably the scariest based on like his design.
Yeah, I remember he had a story where like Bonnie accidentally jump scared him where he didn't mean to and actually freaked the crap out of him. Yeah,
well, he also had nightmares of Bonnie and stuff like that. So he scared himself with the game, which makes it's kind of funny.
That's funny.
people think Freddy's the scariest just because it's a giant bear and he's more relatable to like actual real life animatronics, which makes sense. But I think Foxy's design is scariest just because he's more withered than the other guys are, even though he's not fully withered yet. Yeah, and he's supposed to be out of order even though he's moving. So that's kind of the creepy aspect of it, because the other three are not out of order and they could move, but he's the one that's supposed to be not working, and he's working anyway. But yeah, moving on to music/sound. So, like I said, the music is kind of lacking. I think that could have been improved. Maybe just have a couple more tracks in there, and stuff like that. But the sound effects are really well done. The sound effects almost make up for the lack of music. The sound effects are really well done. Ambience, you can honk the nose, of course. Everyone knows you can honk the nose.
Yeah, it's like a classic.
Yeah, so that's there. That was a main. Ever since that became a mainstay for the entire series, basically. Except for Security Breach. I don't know if you could do it in Security Breach. But either way, you can basically do it anywhere where there's a poster where you can boop, basically. And so that was the thing. The sounding of the doors are terrifying because it actually sounds like metal doors coming down. And Foxy's knocking is pretty terrifying. Yeah,
the humming of the lights I thought was actually kind of good because it's just like this dinky little light.
Freddy sings his little song. Everyone knows that's a mainstay as well. That's pretty terrifying. So the sound effects are really well done. So it kind of makes up for the lack of music. But moving on to story and characters. So Scott initially said that he wasn't too sure because he wasn't sure that FNAF was going to take off in the first place. So he left room for interpretation, but he didn't really craft. He didn't know what the story was going to be when he first made the first game. So the first game's story basically is dead kids. That's basically it. And there's not really any other mystery behind it. FNAF 2 starts introducing like Purple Guy and like that kind of stuff. But FNAF 1, it was just people died here. This place sucks. That's basically it. And then the characters, obviously you have the Night Guard, who's Mike Schmidt, I believe.
Mike Schmidt.
And you have the characters, like the cast characters. So you have Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, technically speaking. So yeah, you have those guys, and they're all pretty. Like I said, the designs of them are all well done. I like the animals he chose. I think Bonnie was originally going to be something else, but he chose like a bunny for it, I guess.
He chose a rabbit.
I think Chica was always meant to be a chicken. I think he when he was making the game, he was like, oh, there's got to be a chicken somewhere because he was terrified of chickens. The Freddy made sense. I wonder what Freddy. I think Freddy was also supposed to be something different. He was supposed to be a beaver, I think.
Oh yeah, because I think he was trying to pay homage to his original game that inspired this game. It was like the
Chipper and Sons.
Chipper and Sons. Yeah, because people said that it looked like scary animatronics, and that's what made him make the game. It's like, okay, I'll just make a game scary.
Yeah, but he reverted that decision at some point, which I think was probably better. So yeah, I think, but Freddy, there's always gonna be Foxy. Foxy, I think, was also just supposed to happen. So Chica and Foxy are the two that were always gonna happen, kind of. But yeah, so the characters are pretty well done, and they're animatronics. They're soulless animatronics. So of course, they're not gonna have personalities or anything. But they're pretty well done. So, moving on to replayability. So, this game, it's at the low end of the middle category because, so basically what I do is that there's limited games. So once you're done with your first playthrough, there's nothing left. It's over, kind of like Last of Us. And then you have the middle section, which I'm not sure what to really call, but it's like the middle part where once you do your first playthrough, there's still going to be some extra stuff after that, but once you're done with the extra stuff, that's when it's over. And then there's truly unlimited games like Minecraft where you can play and experience new stuff until the universe explodes.
Like technically, like FNAF, like once you beat all the nights, technically there's no more after that. But
no, because
like,
there's custom night that
you can do, and like at a really high. There is a finite amount of possibilities you can do, but it will take a while.
It'll take a while, but either way, the existence of, because after technically your first playthrough would be all the way to night 6. But then there's custom night. If custom night didn't exist, that would be fully linear. It'd be just like Last of Us, where it's like once you play the game, it's over. But because custom night exists and because there's a good amount of opportunities to be had with that, then it's going to get lumped into the middle category, but it's definitely in the lower end. It's not like other games that have lumped into the middle, where like there's more content. Like Security Breach, when we didn't do Security Breach when we were doing these better reviews, but that would be a game I would put in the middle, but just farther in, because that has Ruin, that has like different endings and stuff. Because FNAF 1 does not have different endings. The later games do. But FNAF 1 does not. It's just you survived. Congratulations.
Paycheck of like 120.
So moving on to personal takes. So my personal take is this game was obviously revolutionary for its time. However, I think that later installments are better, so I'm not going to be ranking it super high. But I did like the game, obviously. FNAF 2, to be fair, was my first entry to the series, though. And so when I went to FNAF 1, I wasn't like I was disappointed. I was just like, oh, this is different. Because FNAF 2, what FNAF 2 had going for it was that it had so many animatronics, and like I liked the animatronics better, honestly. I liked the mechanics a little bit better. So the game was still really good, FNAF 1. But I just think that later installments are a little bit better. Because obviously he got better over time, in my personal opinion. But yeah, FNAF 1 always was going to have always going to be the king of the idea that this type of mechanic exists, because it's like, I think the category is technically restaurant horror survival.
I think
or
yeah,
animatronic restaurant horror survival. It's like a ridiculous category, but he created it. Like FNAF 1 created it.
You wouldn't be surprised how many games fall into that category.
And I think one of the Flumpties, like I think that happened after like FNAF 3 or 4 or something like that. So it was like early in. And one of the Flumpties had the door mechanic. So like it spawned like this entire series of awesome games. So yeah, that's my personal take. But we'll move on to Zachary.
Yeah, I think FNAF was one of the most revolutionary and most important games for the horror genre. I think it really like just added a lot to the genre as a whole. It was able to make so many spin-offs and fan games. There have been a lot of like really good fan games that have come out because of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, obviously, the first one doesn't really hold up as much, especially compared to some of the other ones that came out after it. But for the time, like even the Let's Play genre on YouTube, like when Markiplier started doing that, and then like Corey started doing it, everyone was doing it. It just
it also because of FNAF, Corey gained massive traction, and people know him now for that series. Mark was already sort of well known, but like that even produced him more. Jacksepticeye was also sort of known with Happy Wheels and stuff, but he played that. It kind of boosted. It basically boosted a lot of the people you know now.
Yeah, and MadPat, one of his most popular series of theories is Five Nights at Freddy's.
And the fact that he played it too, like he played on GT Live, he played it, and they had like tens of thousands of people watching. So yeah, it's and he like live theory crafted with Scott Cawthon at the time, which was crazy. Yeah. So yeah, it's.
So yeah, a lot of big people were able to gain their popularity from Five Nights at Freddy's. That's how that's that type of game for you.
All right, Isabel.
Yeah, when this game came out, I feel like it was just very revolutionary, and because of it coming out, there have been like billions of FNAF fan games just because of Scott Cawthon coming up with the idea of scary animatronics coming to kill you, and you gotta like survive the night till 6 a.m. And I think that idea was amazing, and then it was like branched off into more better games, and then more FNAF fan games, and yeah.
All right. So moving on to, is it worth it? I do know the price already, and it's $7.99, so $8. I mean, there's gonna be tax probably, but $8 rounding up. Because of the first 4. Even the 5, all of them I think are, besides security. Once you get to like the Steel Wool stuff, that's when it starts to amp up because they're bigger games. But I think all FNAF 1 all the way to Pizzeria Simulator are all $7. Or no, Pizzeria Simulator is free. So actually all the way to
Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night were free. So yeah.
Well, because Ultimate Custom Night was like a DLC. He called it a DLC. It wasn't really, but either way. So yeah, but 1 to 5 for sure are $7, like $8. And that is not going to break the bank. That is like that's less than a Big Mac meal at McDonald's now. It didn't used to be, but it is now.
Think about that.
And instead of going to get a Big Mac, go play the first one, because like I said, I bought it on PC. I didn't need to because I first of all already played the game. Second of all, we had it on Switch, so it's not like I needed to, but I wanted to because I wanted to experience the game again. And so $8 is not going to break the bank. It's really cheap, and it's you get a good amount of content out of it, I would say. And there's games that I've paid $25 for that I'm like, well, this is 10 times worse. So like, for me personally, it is absolutely worth it. $8 is not going to break the bank, like I said, and you're going to get a lot of content out of it. And if you like FNAF already, and you haven't played the first one for some reason, then go ahead, go get the first one. But that leaves us with the final rating. And like I said, I was thinking about this just because I need to rate it lower purely because I think later installments are better. Because obviously I think he became a better game developer as time went on. Because I think that's how most game developers work. Like Toby, I think is getting better as he keeps going. So a lot of my ratings are sort of like higher, obviously. But with FNAF, because I know where I want to rate FNAF 2 and I know where I want to rate FNAF 4. So I'm gonna probably put it at like one of the lowest 8s I possibly can, because I think putting it at a 7 would just be like, you know, because it was revolutionary at its time.
Yeah,
and it's
would just be disrespectful.
Well, I wouldn't say disrespectful, but it'd be like a disservice to what it became. So I'll give it an 8, but it's definitely a low 8 for me because I think that personally speaking, the games get better. We'll get to 5, which I don't think did get better, but like I think 2 was better, I think 4 was better, I think Pizzeria Simulator was better. So like all these types of things I think were better, but because it was so revolutionary, I have to give it an 8. But it's a low 8. Just keep that in mind. We don't do 8.2 or whatever because that's stupid. It's 8 out of 10 specifically. But just know that I'm putting it as a lower 8. But Zach.
Yeah, I knew that it was gonna be like above 7. I was considering a 9, but I was like, wait, no, it's not that good. It's not as good as that. Maybe 2 or 4 could be that high. But like the first one, yeah, it's really freaking good, and obviously it was revolutionary. But it's not a 9, I would say. It's not that. It's not like up there. But I think I'd go with the mid, a little bit closer to mid. 8. If we were to do points, obviously, no, I'd say like 8.4 maybe. That's where I put it.
All right, as well.
Yeah, and since this game, in fact, was revolutionary for its time, and since there are better, since there are like better games like FNAF 2, I am gonna agree with giving it a very low 8.
All right. Well, there you have it. So that's our review of Five Nights at Freddy's. And we do custom outro for these. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.